Buffalo in the playoffs.
What's up, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to the Puck and Leafs podcast, where we have our post-Game 1 reaction to whatever that gong show we just witnessed was. Man, guys, I didn't think they were going to win Game 1. I had a bad feeling. I did not have that on my bingo card, but nonetheless, let's break it all down. I'm Joe Choffs here with the boys, Coach Frank and Bobby Bottles. Coach Frank is actually on the road today. He's in Chicago on a little business extravaganza. Frankie, you're lucky in a way because you got to listen to the ESPN feed as opposed to the Sportsnet guys raving and ranting about the Lightning, and you got to hear all that. So, anything that you liked about the ESPN feed more than Sportsnet?
It's so much more credible. Like, it's real hockey guys who, it's Mark Messier, Chris Chelios, and PK Subban. That's a pretty good threesome in terms of at panel, right? So straight to the point, none of this joking around or talking about like social injustices. Has nothing to do with hockey right now. Just breaking down the game, and I wish we had more of it in Canada. I wish we had that feed in Canada. That's not like that. You have to use an Android TV to watch, but no, it was good. I enjoyed it.
I got to say, the guy that was the coach of Detroit, the ex-Tampa coach, I thought he was great, though.
I actually did. I liked him, too. He brought something to the panel that the panel lacks. So
hockey knowledge. It was outrageous.
And you know who was doing the game here on ESPN was Ray Ferraro. That I missed. He was awesome.
He's the best. Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. So what went wrong in Game 1? I don't know how much time we have, but we'll try and give it to you right now. I mean,
you know what went wrong, Joe? Sheldon Keefe went wrong.
Oh boy.
Let's start with that one.
Absolutely. The floor is yours. Go ahead.
Why the fuck? And I'm fired up. So if we want to do it, let's do it the right way. Why the fuck would he put a third line that has not played maybe 2 games together to start a playoff series? And I'm not taking anything away from Noel Acciari. Not at all. But you're putting a line together that has never played, has no chemistry, and you're asking them to do what? You're asking them to score, or you're asking them to stop the other team. And not only that, you play your fourth line 3 minutes into the game? 3 minutes into the game?
Yeah, but Frankie, you're trying to get every line in there early in the game.
I get that, Joe. I understand that, but the other team puts their fourth line out, right? The Bellemare line was on. You go back to a scoring line. You try to get the first goal early. You try to get momentum, not give it back to the other team. I'm sorry, but I know hindsight's 20/20, but come on, man. The lineup didn't make sense to me. I hated the third line. I was okay with the fourth line because they were, they played pretty good down the stretch. But I am all for not putting a line together that has never played together, let alone have any success. And I was also I didn't like moving Yarncroc off the first line. What was so broke about that? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But that's me.
Yeah, they moved Bunting back up to the top line, and we know how that worked out. Michael Bunting takes a match penalty in the second period, and that was pretty much put the nail in the coffin for the Leafs in that game. I thought it was a high hit. Whether they called it, as soon as I saw the replay, I knew they were going to call it like that.
The league hates his guts. He will be suspended.
Yeah, absolutely. So we can then talk about who's going to come into the lineup. It's got to be nice. Where do you see the lineup going from here? Do you think that Yarncroc goes back up with Matthews and Marner? Do they keep the second line intact, or do they push maybe O'Reilly down to the third line?
I'd have to think about it. Like, I haven't had a really chance to kind of, process it, but logic would probably say I probably would see, if I can look into the crystal ball, I would say O'Reilly gets moved down to the third line and Nyes plays with O'Reilly and Acciari, because that's the line that they had working with near the end of the season there. They're probably going to move Kerfoot to the second line with Tavares and Nylander. Again, trying to find something that works. and Yarncroke up to the first line, and then keep that fourth line intact. Joe, you know what, Joe? This is not going to sound crazy. I wouldn't be shocked to see Simmons in game 2 either. He is up with the team.
That is crazy. Why do you think that?
I don't know. I just why would they bring him up? You know what I mean? He just to skate with them. He's been. I would not be surprised if.
I think that's why he's up there, just to skate with them.
No, I would not be surprised if he's in for Aston Reese for some type of momentum switch.
I think they keep that fourth line intact, just the way you said, and Nice kind of slots in somewhere. I very similar to the lineup you just said.
You're right. Most likely, I just wouldn't be surprised at this point. But yeah, it's most likely going to stay as is. But that's how I probably see Keith going in game 2. I think Nice starts off on the third line.
When we talked earlier about this series and this matchup, we said that some of the keys of to victory for the Leafs would be special teams. Today, I thought their power play looked pretty good. For a change, they scored 2 power play goals. That's great for the Leafs power play, who seems to go dormant once the playoffs hit. The penalty kill, however, not so great. They allowed 4 power play goals. Part of that was the goaltending, though, which was another thing that we said, that Samsonov doesn't have to be better than Vasilevsky, but he's still got to be good. And he was flat out awful today. Can you see a scenario where Joseph Woll, he's not starting game 2, but can you see him possibly starting game 3 if Sammy goes into the net and has another clunker like he did tonight in game 2?
Absolutely. Yeah, game 3 for sure. Woll just played in Tampa the other day and played pretty well. So actually he has at least some experience playing in that building, albeit not in a playoff atmosphere, which is totally different. But the familiarity is there. What do they have to lose? They're down 2-0. You try to find a spark. But I don't think it's going to come to that. I think I think Samsonov will be fine. What I didn't realize till I heard it on the broadcast, he's now career 1-7 in the playoffs. That is a very scary stat.
He was very shaky. Like, even at the beginning, a couple saves he made, he was kicking out rebounds right in front. And those 2 Tampa goals to start off were all a bunch of rebounds. And yes, the defense has to be way better at boxing guys out and clearing those rebounds out. But he just didn't look sharp at all tonight.
Let's go to Bobby. I'm curious on the special teams. For me, I've always coached in a way, like, I thought the Leafs gave way too much room to Tampa moving that puck. They were finding seams on that power play where there should not be seams. Like, they made some great passes, but you got to clog those lanes. Like, that was some terrible execution by the Leafs on the penalty kill. There's way too much room. I don't know why they were collapsing so much, but you give that to Tampa, it's game over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were doing a good job with that. Can we talk about the element of luck? I'm not saying that Tampa didn't deserve to win or any. 2 goals in the last 5 seconds of
3 seconds.
3 seconds. Frank, you know this as a coach. Like, the last 2 minutes of every period is important. For them to give up 2 goals in that fashion at that time, part of that's kind of bad luck too, where it's that does not happen very often. So for as bad as the PK was, it was just like, hey, let's make a pass and try to put the puck on net, especially the second one by Braden Point. I mean, that was just threw the puck towards the net. That was kind of those are tough breaks. I think they got to be better 5-on-5. I mean, they didn't seem to generate very much 5-on-5. They obviously had the terrible start, obviously a very bad start, and Sheldon Keith. I like the element of being calm, because if you start to get rattled, I agree with that. The team starts getting rattled. But at what point do you call the refs over and say, let's have a conversation about this game? Because if I was a Leaf fan, I'd be very frustrated that Ryan O'Reilly gets absolutely buried right before he scores I believe it was the second goal or the first goal. I can't remember which one it was.
The first.
First, yeah.
So he gets absolutely cross-checked from behind, and then 2 seconds later they call Luke Shen on the
one-handed push.
One-handed cross-check.
So I at some point, do you not call them over? The fourth goal, they had every reason to call that goal back for it. A, not crossing the line. B, he clearly pushed the pad. That's the only way for that goal to go in. The refs did. I thought they did a poor job. I don't like blaming the officials, but it was noted on the ESPN broadcast, they were not very good. At what point does Keefe call them over and say, "Listen, guys, power plays are 8-4, whatever it was," but it seemed like all the calls. I would be very frustrated as a Leaf fan from that aspect of tonight's game.
Not only the amount of calls, it was the timing of the calls.
Yeah.
They gave the Leafs a penalty within 2 minutes of them scoring a goal, get back into the game each time. And yeah, it wasn't the refs' fault that they lost this game today, but the officiating was terrible. And I'm wondering if the Leafs have ever said anything to the league about Wes McCauley officiating their games. Because if you don't know anything about the backstory, Wes McCauley's brother-in-law used to be Sheldon Keefe's hockey coach or something, and then Keefe testified against him in court. There's definitely some sort of conflict of interest there, and it seems like every time Wes McCauley's reffing a Leafs game, it's just a gong show. And he is he masquerades as this, funny ref who makes these funny calls, but he is one of the worst officials in the entire league. And I don't know why the Leafs don't question why he gets so many of their games.
I thought they were very emphatic on that fourth goal, like it's a goal and there's no goal interference.
It didn't even cross the line. Even on the replay that they showed us, there's no clear point that it crosses the line.
So that's Toronto. That's not them making that call. That's the higher ups. But for the no goal interference, there's no way for that puck to go in with his foot on the post like that. And for them to emphatically call it, it just seemed so funky. The NFL is great in terms of they kind of put a grade on all the referees, and only the good refs get the playoff games, and obviously the best ref gets the Super Bowl. Is the NHL not doing that? Because, I mean, the first game of a playoff series, you're expecting the top of the top here, and I thought they did a poor job of managing the game.
Not only you thought that, I believe Messier and Chelio said that on the ESPN broadcast, right, Frankie?
Yeah, they both said this is the worst refereeing they've seen in a long time.
Well, there you go. It's not just Leafs fans.
I just want to touch on that for a sec, because if you guys remember last year in game 1, I mean, Joe, maybe you correct me if I'm wrong. In game 1, there was next to nothing called, and in game 2 they called everything.
No,
so
game 1 they called a lot of stuff. The Leafs had a 5-minute power play, 5-minute penalty, match penalty in game 1 of last year as well.
Yeah. So after watching today's game, just as a hockey fan, I'm still curious what a penalty is, because it's so gray. And I'm watching that, if you thought the Shen penalty was bad, how did David Kampf get a hooking call on Perry when, again, he had one hand on his stick? And then I'm just, as you were talking, Rob, I'm reading some of the comments, and you'd be surprised some of the stuff that you thought would come from the Leafs. Austin Matthews actually says a lot of the penalties that were called tonight were penalties. Take that for what it's worth. That's coming right from Austin Matthews tonight. So now I don't know if he's trying to get away from the whole bunting thing, but clearly, is it going to be better off if the Leafs just don't say anything about it? You know what happens. They get a stereotype on them, and it's going to get worse, right? So, listen, you can't blame it on the refereeing.
No, you can't.
Joe, they play like shit regardless. And exactly. I'll tell you another thing. To Rob's point, and you can go ahead. To Rob's point, Rob's 100% right when he says, those goals in the last minute were backbreakers. How about starting on time again? It's just not the end of the period. It's the start of the friggin' game. That time and time again, you let the first goal. Joe, I'm sorry. I don't know if it was the first shot. It was the first goal in the first 5 minutes of the game that you have to own in your own building, game 1, and you let in a goal. You're already behind the 8 ball. That's the issue that I have. How many times in a Sheldon Keefe era has this team not friggin' started on time? That makes me upset beyond belief.
Can I play?
I was just going to say the exact same thing. The last time the Maple Leafs won a series back in 2004, all of us were in high school still. And the thing I remember about those teams, the Sundin, Roberts, Tucker, McGillney era, if you want to call it, the first 10 minutes of a game, the visiting teams used to come into the Air Canada Center at the time, and they would have to say, we just got to make it through the first 10 minutes because those guys would be hitting everything and the crowd would get so into it. Today's game, the crowd was into it to start that game. The anthem was amazing. The crowd was chanting "Go Leafs, go!" They were so into it, and they come out flat. They come out turning pucks over. They don't make saves, and they're hemmed in their zone the whole time. It should be the other way around. I just don't get it. Why this happens every time? How does that happen in your own barn to not go out and dominate those first 10 minutes? And feed off that crowd like that crowd was today. Just a complete pathetic start to the game for the Maple Leafs today.
Can I play producer for 2 minutes?
Absolutely.
Please.
Let's clip Frank's clip there and put that up on Instagram because that was a healthy rant. When you got to go to the water after, that's when you know he was. That was well done. Let's talk about. There were two things. So first of all, it wasn't a heartbreaking loss, which can also be backbreaking. So it's almost like that game felt it was out of hand after the fifth goal or sixth goal. So you can almost be like, well, let's throw it away. We got off to a bad start. And I believe the Leafs routed Tampa in the first game last year and still lost the series. So it's something you can come back from. Hedman and Chernak, we haven't talked about it yet. Huge. This will be huge developments because if Chernak is out for any extended period, that's a huge loss for them. And Hedman, I believe, was injured coming into this series because he sat out the last game of the season. I thought it was just maintenance. There may have been something actually wrong with him. If those two guys don't play, the Leafs have no excuse for not winning the series. None. Zero. So
if those two guys don't play, the Lightning should have no chance at winning the series.
No chance.
Except for the fact that they're playing the Maple Leafs. That's the only reason why they have a chance.
And you don't root for anybody to get hurt. But those things happen and should happen this game.
John Cooper is notorious for saying one thing and then the other thing happens. I honestly, I would not be shocked to see one, if not both, back in the lineup next
No,
game.
no, of course not. But this, if they don't play for whatever reason, Hedman will be back. Chernak, that's a head injury, so we don't know. That could be a week minimum. Hedman should be back, but
we don't even know what the issue is with Hedman. He just took off in the middle of the game.
We don't know, but you know that over the last 40 games, he was not Victor Hedman. I mean, that was the talk around the league, and now it's like he leaves the game, so you know he's not at 100%.
Can I make a kind of like an observation too, a general observation? Last night, the Oilers lost, the Stars lost, the Leafs lost tonight. Currently, right now, Winnipeg is up 2-0 on Vegas. The Devils lost at home. This is an away playoff so far, guys. This is unprecedented. But I'm curious, anything there or just coincidence?
Do you think it's easier to start a playoff series game one on the road?
100%.
Why?
No pressure.
Mm-hmm.
No pressure. What did you say, Joe? All you got to do is survive the first, say 10 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
And then you're settled in, right? John Cooper said it tonight too. He says, I have a team here. I have a lot of guys who have won, 2 cups, been in three cup finals in a row. But that first game of the playoffs, you have everybody running around, everybody, getting excited. Sometimes you make a big mistake, like Aston Reese, right? It's the emotions are there, the intensity's there, right? Being on away, you don't have to worry about the crowd. It's just a little lighter type of pressure atmosphere. So that's why I think, anyways.
Maybe the Leafs can send Justin Hall to Tampa if they need some help on defense there.
He was the clubhouse leader this evening with a -4.
Oh, is he
that
bad?
First goal, he had Perry lined up as he was coming around the net, and he just let him right by him. I didn't understand that one bit.
Yeah, he's also playing game 2, so he ain't coming up.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'll be Shed.
I hope not. I like Shen, man. I like the physical element he brings. But yeah, I think they're gonna make a switch there. They're gonna put Lily back in there, and not that I have any problem with Lily. I love Lily. I think for the most part he had a really good year and probably deserves to be in the playoff lineup. But
Yeah, I think they go Riley, Brody, Giordano, Lilligren, and McCabe and Hall.
I think they expected Tampa to be a lot more physical. I didn't think Tampa was like that.
they didn't need to be, Bobby. They were up by
They
3
didn't need to
goals for
be
the
at
entire
all.
game.
In fact, the Leafs I thought carried the physicality for most of the game.
When you're
which
chasing the
was-
game, you are going to get
Yeah.
more hits.
If you want to see one thing that I just like appreciate so much about Tampa, they didn't give the Leafs an inch to break out. Like they were hammering them in their zone, and when they finally got out, they were on them right back in the zone. Like Tampa played a playoff style game when the game was still in reach, but like they weren't giving them an inch. It was almost like to say, F you to anybody who thought, we were coming into this series, hurt or playing bad. They flipped the switch. They played a playoff game tonight. You got to, for that, I give them credit.
You didn't
Laughing
watch.
at all the people who said Leafs in 5.
You
That's
you
what
didn't
Tampa
watch
did.
the Sportsnet feed, but that's what the coach brought up. That's what that guy brought up about how the Tampa defense were like way up the ice and on their toes and not back on their heel. That's how you got to play. I mean, get up the ice and
Close those gaps.
close those gaps.
All right, boys. Do you think the Leafs will tie the series on Thursday, game 2?
Yeah, overtime.
Oh boy.
I think yeah, but the goaltending, that's the one thing that I'm sitting there going, man, like the Leafs can score on Vasilevsky, but they've got to get some
He wasn't
saves.
bad tonight either, and that's another thing. Last year he struggled. I can also see a game 2 where the Leafs come out, pepper him with 52 shots, and he comes out with a 51 save win. You know what I mean? Like
It's
But
totally possible. Yeah,
It
for
seems
sure.
like the Leafs score 3 on them all the time. It's just constantly. They're like that one team that you can just score on them. They're one of the only
7 goals
teams.
in your net in a playoff really is going to make you question your hockey team.
Yeah,
Like that's a very scary
4
thought.
for 8, 4 for 8 in the power play. That helps. I mean, that helps.
That helps.
Definitely. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you come back again after game 2. We're going to post a game 2 post game as well. So yeah, make sure you check that out. Hopefully we're celebrating a Leafs win. It always feels better, although you probably find it much more entertaining when the Leafs lose and we get to vent a little bit. All right, let's get on out of here.
Later, guys.
See ya. Thanks, everyone.